Welcome to Our Soul Whisper with Cathi Belmont and co-host Dr. Pat, a sacred space for self-discovery, healing, and transformation. At the heart of Our Soul Whisper is the sacred truth. When we pause and listen inward, the soul always speaks. This show offers a safe, empowering space where those whispers are heard, honored, and lovingly guided into full expression. Each episode invites you to be curious about yourself and the reality you're in, while gently reminding you that you are exactly where you need to be. Let today's message settle in your heart. Maybe even journal about it. And if something resonates, peace, clarity, or insight, pass it along to someone whose soul might be calling for the same. Keep listening inward. Your soul knows the way. Our Soul Whisper starts now. Wow, I just got to do wow. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm Dr. Pat. I get to take this journey. I love this. I love this idea of co-hosting that somebody came up with a long time ago, because for me personally, I am a student. And whenever I get to do a show with Cathi, it is like, wow, what am I going to learn about this one today? So before we even get to the topic of self-discovery, meeting yourself in the present, I want you to make sure you take down the website and go take a look at the essence of what we're talking about today. Just go over to OurSoulWhisper.com. Check it out. Here's the question: meeting yourself in the present. But Cathi, come on now, this is like the trickiest title for a show, but it's so important, isn't it? What is it? What popped up for you about this one?
You know, it is a doozy, isn't it?
It really is, especially today for me. Yeah, it's like one.
Yeah, I'm not going to start out light. I'm just going to go right down deep.
Go for it.
Yeah, Dr. Pat, I found this quote, and everyone listening, I found this quote that really struck me. And the words are so simple, I believe, but I felt such richness in it. And I believe Nancy Levin, who's a master coach and author, said this. And it says, honor the space between no longer and not yet.
Mm-hmm.
And this...
Love it.
Yeah, it brought up a lot of thoughts. And one of the immediate thoughts was it brought up a lot of the major transitions in my life. I moved across the country. I left a 9-to-5 to start my business. Both involved leaving what I knew to this world of possibility and, oh, now what? And, and at times was I scared and doubted those decisions? Yeah. But amongst that grief and relief of that no longer, and the excitement and angst and of the not yet, I found relief in coming back to that present moment.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting. Another practical way to, maybe not day to day, to look at it too. It doesn't always have to be major transitions. I have this palm plant in back of me, and I bought it, and its leaves were in full bloom, and it was beautiful. And all of a sudden the leaves just started yellowing and, going away.
Yeah, I do know. I do know that feeling.
And it was no longer the way that I had it. And as I anticipate the not yet, I'm so appreciating the stage now. It's beautiful green stalks, new life is coming. So it's appreciating that space in the middle. It's appreciating that moment. Not going too far into the present and not staying in the past too long.
This is such an important conversation. Let's talk about this, because I thank you for sharing that. And for those people that are listening, you and I, we're kind of like two peas in a pod. kind of, if you want to talk about it. And what I mean by that is packing myself up, moving across the country, thought I was going to go to the University of Washington out here. They folded the department that I was going to go to, and here I sat. And it's like, what? What do you mean? You folded, what did you fold it into? A peanut butter and jelly sandwich? But here I was. And we're going to talk about what it takes to be in that place. I'm not saying it's comfortable. I'm not there, but also there's a knowing that we should have, right? What does it take? What does this self-discovery take? Because you doing what you did and I'm doing what I did, I didn't have a roadmap. And I came from a roadmap. I had a corporate job. I was like 9 to 5. Well, 9 to longer than 5. I played sports. I bought the house. And then I didn't.
Yeah. That self-discovery, for me, it takes asking ourselves some questions. What does it mean to you, to us, and how do we venture into that? Some of the questions that, we can think about are, do you doubt yourself? Do you question your worthiness or whether you really deserve to live life on your terms? Do you quiet that voice that says, I want to be at home, set my own hours, and be successful at it? Is that voice quieted by, well, other people have what it takes, but not me?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I
So
got
you
that
have,
today.
yeah, it's recognizing those. It's those unresolved wounds that we have, holding on to that shame of any childhood experiences or that marriage that didn't work out. Looking at those shoulds of, I should have spoken up sooner, or the if only. If
Yeah,
only I had taken advantage of that opportunity when it
yeah,
presented itself.
yeah.
Great regrets.
You know what, though? Here's the thing. Since you and I talked, I had an experience that happened at a meeting on Monday that I went to where that moment showed up, Cathi. So let's talk about the moment. That moment that shows up where, I don't know the right term, where we're tested. Is that a term? What test is probably not a good term, but there's something that shows up where we have to make a decision on who we are in that moment. Not who we were last year, but who we are in that moment. And I found myself at a meeting, very professional, until the leader of the meeting attacked one of my buddies at the meeting, a longtime friend of mine, an 88-year-old man, my coach. And then I don't know what happened to me in that moment, Cathi, but I stayed professional. I didn't use any profanity. However, I showed up differently. Isn't that what we're talking about? We're talking about how we show up in this playful, yet powerful, yet questioning space.
It is. It's how do we choose to show up? And it's being aware. Are we aware in this moment of when we have those moments of being
Yeah,
different or we're expressing
yeah,
those emotions?
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes we're aware and sometimes we're not. And can we catch
Hmm.
ourselves and say,
And
I see
family,
what happened there?
family is a great trigger, right? You've got a family story you got to share.
I do. So, so yeah, I was with my sister, and I brought up kind of jokingly, maybe half jokingly, something from our past. And there was this pause, and she said to me, Cathi, I'm not that person anymore.
Mm,
And boy, I was just struck right here. And I emoted quite a bit. And and then I woke up to this awareness that I had been experiencing her and responding to her from the past. I wasn't seeing her as she is in the present. And at that moment, I woke up to something.
mm.
I woke up to maybe not just my sister, but how many other people have I been experiencing in the past and responding from that? Totally different reality when you can shift from seeing someone in their present moment, not how they were yesterday or even 5 minutes ago, being aware. How are we responding in that
Yeah.
moment to those
Yeah.
people, especially the ones that mean so much to us?
Yeah.
And
You
we
know,
woke
in
up.
that, I mean, I love that you should. Thank you for sharing that because then there's the change, right? Does it change well, let me ask you, did that cause a change in perspective and relationship?
Most definitely. And, it shifted my perspective enough in that moment to where my reality changed. I found myself, well, I had moments of where I didn't know what to say. I was in that in between. Okay, no longer seeing her in the past. How do I, what's that yet to be? And, but eventually I found, yeah, let's see her as she is now,
Yeah.
see the people as they are now. And I believe that once we wake up to that awareness, there's no going back. We can maybe dismiss it or decide not to do
Mhm.
something about it, but
Mhm.
we woke up to something, and that's so
Yeah.
significant. That can change the reality.
Yeah. But also seeing ourselves too, let's talk about this because it allows us to just look at that one perspective, but then apply it across the board. Where am I looking at things that happen to me, like to me, as wait a minute, it happened to me, but there's got to be like a positive ion here or something. There's got to be an opportunity here. And that perspective, what opportunity did it open for you? And what habits did you have to look at? Because I'll tell you this, I'm very blessed to have a best friend who has seen me at my worst and today doesn't see me that way anymore. And I got to tell you, some of the stuff, like, oh, I can't even talk about it, but you can't unsee and undo. But Linda has the ability to do that. And I can't tell you how grateful I am because when you meet somebody like you just did that can shift the perspective, the trajectory, the past doesn't rule the future anymore, does it?
No, no. And Dr. Pat, that's such a beautiful story. And to have a person like that in your life who can see you one way and have that unconditional love.
Yeah.
So I so appreciate that. Yeah, it's a shift in perspective. It's, things happening to you, puts us in that victim mode. How do we want to see life? Do we want to see it as dark and, oh my gosh, things are out to get me? Or do we want to see it as, with my sister, life, source, whatever we want to call it, giving us that opportunity to say, hey, look at this. You know, I invite you to see it in a different way, you know, and change that reality.
Yeah.
So, what is the situation here to teach or show me? I invite everybody to try that on, see how it feels. I wanted to talk about integration for a minute
Yeah.
because I really truly believe it can assist in how we see things differently. I know it shifted things in my life major. And, my practice of integration to wholeness, it doesn't mean that we're not already whole, because I believe we're already whole, worthy beings as we. What it means to me is recognizing those parts of us that are stuck in the past,
Mm.
bringing them to the present. And when we
Mhm.
realize and experience those parts of ourselves as such, we're no longer responding the way we were, and that's how our reality changed. I made a joke with my brother one time. We have these great conversations, and we were talking about reality, changing reality, creating, and I said, I just want a YouTube on that.
Yeah.
And that was my way of continually questioning and understanding. And I think I'm finally getting it. It's that realization and experiencing, and it's that shift in perspective and how we respond is how we shift our reality.
Yeah. And for me the other day, let's talk about the integration of it. Because for me the other day, what prompted that instantaneous response? Now, but trust me, I've learned a few manners along the way. And so I was able to, what's the proper word, Cathi? To get a hold of myself, have enough composure, but at least speak my mind and say, do you know who this man is? Do you understand the legacy he brings? Whatever I said, I was able to do it that way. But then afterwards, I was telling Linda, and I didn't talk about the rest of the meeting. I just talked about that. And then I talked about the other two people at the meeting. We were all so friends, didn't speak up. And then I realized, oh my God, this is me. This is about me. This is about a past trigger because this is my past. This is always having to battle for somebody to be on my side until I realized that ain't going to happen. But you see, it does allow us to look at ourselves again. Isn't that what you're talking about? So now that we look at that, how do we balance that teeter-totter, that seesaw between wholeness and practices to support self-discovery without doubt, without the judgment we usually have on ourselves?
You know, we can really look at ourselves and see. I mean, that was a beautiful example of self-discovery, and you were in a meeting. You know, it's those moments where if we're willing to really allow those moments to show us about ourselves, there's other ways,
Mhm,
what ways in your everyday life can you invite into your life to prompt
mhm,
self-discovery? Some people love dreams. I love dreams. I wish I want to remember them more. Is it journaling? Is it writing? Is it remember something when you were a kid that you just loved, or maybe
mhm,
that you didn't, you know?
mhm,
Um, it's interesting. I was interested in people who discover themselves and people who are aware. And I found this Harvard Business Review article, and I'm going to read just a little bit of it. It says that 95% of the people believe that they're self-aware. Research suggests about 10 to 15 of the world's population actually is self-aware.
yeah.
And they define self-awareness as understanding one's own emotions, motivations, how they impact others, and how others perceive us or them.
Mhm.
Interesting tidbit.
It's an amazing tidbit, and let's just talk about that because you had a moment of self-discovery with your sister, and I don't want to blow by that lightly, because your sister, I believe it's your sister, pointed something out to you and
She
said to
did.
you, Cathi, I'm not that person. Now, the next thing out of your mouth would have planned a benevolent future or could have sent that conversation into zero dark 30 in a hot second, but you didn't do that. And that's what I want to hold on to for people that are struggling with this. When you all ask me to recommend a coach, what I ask you to do is who is somebody that is demonstrating that they actually know how to navigate those waters? And that's what you heard with Cathi today. And that's part of this dream work, journaling. But I love what you said, remembering at a child. You said something interesting I didn't think you were going to say. You said, remember what you love and remember what you didn't love. Did you say that?
I did.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Kind of looking
gosh,
at
this
both
is so
sides.
weird. The other night I had to have scrambled eggs with cheese for dinner with toast. And I pulled out the ketchup. And Linda's like, what are you putting the ketchup on? I said, ketchup, it goes on scrambled eggs. She said, I haven't seen you use ketchup on, I've known you like since 1972. You're putting ketchup. But it was all tied into that Monday meeting. See, I now look back at that. That was old school scrambled eggs and cheese as a kid, right? With
Mm.
ketchup.
Hmm.
Okay, I know y'all gonna don't email me about the ketchup. But you see, let's talk about this. How do we honor this? I didn't get put down for it, but we have to honor the steps in our journey. How do we align? Because now you have a future with your sister you did not have.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. When I said, honor, look at what you liked as a child and what you didn't, it's really, what did you love to do? I love to color. I mean, that
Oh.
was my favorite thing. I love those connecting the numbers and paint a picture. And I found myself later in life discovering I love to paint.
Mm,
I want to do that. And, I love it. And then there are those things that I didn't like. And it's honoring those things that I didn't like.
mm.
Maybe you really do like ketchup on your eggs. I know my grandmother loved to put ketchup in salsa. Wasn't my thing. And I can honor people that like that because there's a lot of people that do. And I don't like it. I don't like baked beans. The recipe sounds wonderful. All the molasses and the brown sugar. I just don't like it. And it's honoring what we like and what we
Mm,
don't like. And it's that
mm.
self-discovery and saying, yeah, I like the hot dog, no baked beans. So it's I just invite everybody to learn something about yourself today and
Mm,
embrace that and embrace the courage it took to look at that,
yeah.
however we want to, what perspective, whether it's big or small.
I have a call to action for all of you. Let's just take what Cathi said and see. I would really appreciate you pull this out because I want to put this out there. Are you willing to just exactly do what Cathi said? Identify something. It doesn't have to be five, it's not a list of 500 things, but identify something you loved and identify something you didn't. Because if we have that point of self discovery, then we can reflect on our lives to say, why am I eating the baked beans when I
Exactly.
don't want it? But isn't that what you're talking about as a way to integrate to get us back to wholeness?
It is. I mean, I said yes to my life by starting my integration to wholeness and
Hmm.
coaching services. And I said yes to this podcast. Um, I it's stretching me in a lot of ways, and I'm very grateful for that. I get to write, which is one of my most favorite things to do. And I am embracing sharing my voice, which is what I've always said I wanted to do, and at the same time, know that I'm making a difference. So it's really
Hmm.
looking inside yourself and just taking those
Yeah.
steps, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden you realize there you are. There
Well,
you are.
let's talk for a minute from your perspective, because you mentioned a couple of things, but I also want people to know that what self-discovery takes, right? I mean, we're talking about it, we're kind of laughing about it, but it's taken me a lot of years to reflect on that woman that sat at that table, right, with four other guys, and we're talking and having one thing trigger me, and for me not to turn all Bronx Project girl on everybody. I'm just saying with that. But what does it take? What is the message you want to take us through and leave us with today?
I want to say that every moment is an awareness. Every moment that we're aware that we wake up is a doorway to transformation. And each yes or no that we choose shapes the reality that we experience. And I just invite everybody to honor the truth of who you are, stay curious about what you're uncovering, and just keep revealing that whole worthy and magnificent person that you are. And don't forget the fun. Stay curious, honor that truth, and just have fun along the way.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is there are these stages to awareness and
Mhm.
awakening, and I think you mentioned
Yeah.
several of them. Part of the fun part, I think, is when you talked about asking us to dream, asking us to
Mhm.
remember something we loved as a child. And just as you mentioned it, I went to the funnest parts of my childhood, right? Now, what I've learned as an adult, I learned this the other day with a host. I like different things, like the normal average person. So I recommended a Netflix series and I didn't consider who they were. And so I just have to be more aware of who I am and what my preferences are. Because I recommended Sandman to somebody who clearly is not drawn to the dark side of fantasy.
Mm.
Now, for me, I grew up with comics, I grew up with superheroes. every time a superhero had an alter ego. So for you today, what do you want to leave us with? How do we honor all parts of ourselves? And yet, like you did with your sister, you learn a little discernment.
I think it's honoring where we are and each step we take to get there. It's when we feel those emotions, those triggers, stop and ask yourself what's going on, and early in my life, I learned the hard way, and I said, yep, that's going to be how I'm going to learn. And then there was one day I said, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to learn the hard way. So we get to
Yeah.
choose. And sometimes it can be harder than others. And sometimes it can feel that way. And I think once we're aware and the more we inquire ourselves, the more we're curious, I think it gets easier to bring that curiosity, that more of that observer mode in to where we can separate ourselves from, I'm not that experience, I'm not that feeling. I know who I am. And the more we feel into our energy of who we are, which is what a beautiful friend reminded me of just not too long ago. What's your energy feel like? And just stay in tune with that. And you get in touch with your worthiness. And that makes, I think, the journey helpful,
I
And,
love it.
and like you said last time, we're not alone in this.
No.
We have some helpers up there or over
Yeah.
there or under there around us
Everywhere, everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah.
Cathi, thank you so much for today. And I just want to tell everybody, go to OurSoulWhisper.com, find out about Cathi, reach out to Cathi. I'm sure there was something you heard today. And the hardest part is taking that first step. And as we've all said, don't take it alone. Cathi, thank you so much for this show. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Pat. It was a blast. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Sierra, for pushing all the right buttons for all of you out there. Remember that childhood thing? Come on now. I didn't even say to you, and then ask yourself why you're not doing it. That's for the next show. But just find that one thing. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to Our Soul Whisper with Cathi and Dr. Pat. Tune in every first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific on transformationtalkradio.com and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Take a moment now to breathe in and reflect on today's message. If it brought you peace, clarity, or insight, let it settle in your heart and maybe even journal about it. Remember to like and share this episode with someone who's ready to listen within. May our soulful echoes ripple outward, awakening awareness and deep remembrance. If this show touched something within you, share it. Let's create a world where most of us pause, listen inward, and allow our light to shine. Visit OurSoulWhisper.com for more.